The chip inside your phone right now is dying. Not broken. Not outdated, dying at the physical level. And while TSMC and Intel are spending hundreds of billions trying to keep silicon alive for just a few more years, Chinese researchers have already moved on to what comes next. For over 60 years, the rule was simple: make chips smaller, and they get faster. That rule just broke. At the scale we're building now, just a few atoms wide, silicon stops behaving like a controlled system. Electrons leak through barriers they shouldn't cross. Heat builds faster than it can be removed. Power gets wasted instead of used. This is not a design problem. This is physics. And physics doesn't negotiate. So the real question is no longer how to improve silicon. It's this: what replaces it, and who controls it first? Because the answer doesn't just decide faster phones. It decides who owns the next 30 years of computing power. Right now, one material is entering that conversation. It's called Tungsten Silicon Nitride, WSi₂N₄. And the researchers building the deepest knowledge base around it are not in Silicon Valley. So what exactly is this material? And why is China already 3 steps ahead on it? Silicon isn't failing because engineers ran out of ideas. It's failing because it's hitting a wall no amount of clever design can fix. At just a few nanometers, electrons stop behaving like particles. They behave like waves. They tunnel through barriers that are supposed to block them. Imagine turning off a light switch, but electricity keeps flowing through the wall anyway. That leakage wastes power, generates heat, and destroys efficiency at scale. And it's happening inside every advanced chip being manufactured today. It's why Samsung, Intel, and TSMC are no longer just shrinking transistors. They're stacking them vertically, splitting them into new geometries, redesigning entire architectures, just to stay competitive. But these are workarounds. The core problem hasn't changed. Silicon itself is at its physical limit. And while most of the semiconductor industry is still fighting to extend silicon's life by one more generation, China has been investing in something different. Not better silicon. Something beyond it. And to understand why WSi₂N₄ matters, you first have to understand why every previous silicon killer failed. For years, the scientific community believed the answer would come from 2D materials, semiconductors so thin they exist as a single atomic layer. Thinner material means better control, less energy loss, more efficient switching. The first real candidate was molybdenum disulfide, MOS2. In lab conditions it performed. In the real world it collapsed. Unstable under normal operating conditions. Defect rates too high to manufacture consistently. Performance degraded at scale. So the industry was stuck again. Until a new material appeared. And this time, the data behind it is fundamentally different. That material is tungsten silicon nitride, WSi₂N₄. And what makes it different isn't just that it's thin. It's how it's built at the atomic level. Zoom in and you see a 7-layer stack, nitrogen, silicon, nitrogen, tungsten in the center, then the same layers mirrored on the other side. Total thickness, 0.7 nanometers. Just a few atoms from top to bottom. The critical detail is that tungsten core. In older 2D materials, the active atoms were exposed, which made them degrade under real-world conditions. In WSi₂N₄, that core layer is sealed inside silicon nitrogen layers on both sides. Think of it as locking something fragile inside a sealed case before sending it into a war zone. That architecture alone solves the stability problem that killed MOS2. But stability alone doesn't make a chip material useful. It needs to behave like a perfect switch. This is where the numbers land. Silicon has a band gap of 1.1 electron volts. WSi₂N₄ sits at 2.0 electron volts, nearly double. A larger band gap means far higher voltage is required to pull a rogue electron across the barrier. In practical terms, when the transistor is off, it stays off. Leakage current drops by orders of magnitude. not marginally. Orders of magnitude. It also maintains strong electron mobility at atomic thickness, the exact point where silicon performance collapses entirely. But here's the part the research papers don't emphasize enough, and the part that makes this geopolitical. There's one problem that decides whether a material becomes real or stays buried in academic journals forever. Defects. At the atomic level, a semiconductor must be near perfect. A single missing atom creates a trap, a location that captures electrons, slows switching, or makes a transistor behave unpredictably. That unpredictability is enough to break a chip that needs to fire billions of times per second. In older 2D materials, defects were everywhere, and worse, they were random. That randomness made manufacturing impossible to control. You couldn't yield a consistent product. That's exactly what killed MOS2 at scale. What changed this time is that researchers stopped guessing and started mapping. In 2025 and into 2026, teams publishing defect analysis on WSi₂N₄, many of them at Chinese research institutions, used advanced microscopy and computational modeling to precisely identify which defects form under which growth conditions, and how much damage each one causes. The most common defect is a missing nitrogen atom. That creates a trap state, a location where electrons get stuck instead of flowing. Under standard growth conditions, these traps degrade switching behavior significantly. But under nitrogen-rich CVD conditions, trap state density drops by roughly an order of magnitude. That's not a small improvement. That's the difference between a material that behaves randomly and one that can be engineered predictably at scale. This is the shift from trial and error to controlled manufacturing. And here's where it becomes a sovereignty issue. While Intel and TSMC are spending their R&D budgets pushing silicon to its absolute physical limit, squeezing out one more process node before the wall hits, Chinese research groups are building the defect maps, growth playbooks, and process knowledge for the material stack that comes after silicon. The US chip ban is designed to freeze China at the current generation. But if China owns the knowledge base for post-silicon materials, the ban becomes strategically irrelevant. You can't sanction a material that doesn't exist in any fab yet. So what does WSi₂N₄ actually do inside a real device? Because this is where the numbers stop being theoretical. Now we get to what engineers actually care about. Not structure. Not theory. Performance. A chip is billions of tiny switches, on an OFF, billions of times per second. The cleaner that switch behaves, the faster and more efficient the entire system. Engineers measure switching quality using subthreshold swing, how much voltage it takes to flip the transistor on. The theoretical limit is 60 millivolts per decade. Silicon at nanometer scales sits at 70 to 90. WSi₂N₄ hits 62 to 65 millivolts per decade. Within striking distance of the physical limit, something silicon hasn't achieved in over a decade. The on-off current ratio, how completely the switch turns off, reaches 10 to 10 superscript 1 in device simulations. When it's off, it is almost completely off. For AI inference workloads, where millions of transistors sit idle at any given moment, that efficiency gain isn't marginal. It's architectural. But there's a second variable that doesn't get enough attention, and it's the one that's quietly killing AI infrastructure. Heat. Modern AI processors generate extreme thermal loads. That's why cooling has become a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure problem in its own right. Entire data centers engineered around temperature management. WSi₂N₄ handles heat fundamentally differently. Thermal conductivity sits at 150 to 200 watts per meter Kelvin, comparable to bulk silicon, but at atomic thickness. For reference, MOS2, the previous generation 2D candidate, sits at just 30 to 40 watts per meter Kelvin. That's a 5 times advantage in heat handling at the same atomic scale. For AI chip designers, that's not a feature. That's a design unlock. Better switching. Lower leakage. Superior heat handling at atomic scale. So why isn't this already in every fab on the planet? Because there's one problem lab simulations can't solve: manufacturing at scale. Growing WSi₂N₄ with consistent atomic precision across an entire 300 mm wafer, billions of transistors, zero defects, is an engineering challenge that hasn't been cracked yet. The growth processes exist. The defect maps are being built. The performance data is real. But the jump from research paper to production fab is where most materials die. It's where WSi₂ died. Where germanium died. Where dozens of silicon killers spent years in academic journals before quietly disappearing. What's different this time isn't the material. It's who's doing the manufacturing groundwork, and why. China's semiconductor research ecosystem, state-funded, long-cycle, not constrained by quarterly earnings pressure, has a structural advantage in materials science that plays out over decades, not years. They can spend 5 years building defect maps with no commercial deadline. Intel cannot. TSMC will not. That's not a criticism. That's a structural reality of how the two systems operate. The nation that industrializes post-silicon materials first doesn't just win a chip race. It rewrites the entire framework of Western export controls, because those controls are built around silicon-based manufacturing nodes that will no longer be relevant. So the real question isn't whether silicon will be replaced. It's this: when it happens, who will be ready? Compute is power. Energy is leverage. And the country that controls the post-silicon manufacturing stack controls the next era of strategic computing. China is not waiting for permission to build that stack. The defect maps are being written. The growth playbooks are being documented. The knowledge base is accumulating, quietly, systematically, and without a press release. This is what the chip war actually looks like in 2026. That's WSi₂N₄, not just a material. A signal. A signal of where the real semiconductor race is being fought. Not at 3 nanometers. Not at 2 nanometers. At the atomic layer beneath all of it. Drop a comment right now, one word: replace, if you think WSi₂N₄ becomes the next chip material. Or hype, if you think silicon still has the runway to outlast it. I want to see where you stand. And if this kind of deep tech geopolitical analysis is what you came here for, subscribe. Because we're only getting deeper into this.